Right, so
Dum 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 bang. Yeah. You see the way your screens are looking dark. Now light is back. Wow, disco. What? Nice.
that is the situation in the country.
Yeah.
And it's not happening only in Accra. It's happening in Kumasi, it's happening in Takoradi, it's happening in Tamale, it's happening in Sunyani.
Length and breadth of the country.
You speak to people all across the country and they tell you that they're experiencing erratic power supply. This is not the first time we've talked about Dumsor. You know, the fact that the government doesn't want to admit that there is Dumsor. And also, we were promised, I remember vividly, you know, the president talking about the fact that he has continued to keep the lights on. That was in his last State of the Nation address, right? For the past 7 years, he's continued to keep the lights on and he'll continue to keep the lights on. And it looks like the president is failing to keep the lights on. And what we need to do to ensure that the lights continue to stay on, we seemingly are not doing it, right? Can you imagine that the whole of last week, every single day, from Monday through till Saturday, Sunday. Every single day, my lights were going off.
Lantam.
Every single day. You know, previously it was like, okay, if it goes off on Monday, maybe Tuesday it won't go off, but Wednesday it will go off. Then Thursday it won't go off, then Friday it will go off. But this time around, it's become so frequent that Monday it's off, Tuesday it's off, Wednesday it's off, Thursday it's off, Friday it's off. And you know, sometimes the annoying thing is that it will go off during the day, then it will come on around 6 p.m., then it will go off again around 10 p.m., then it won't come on again until the next morning around 6 a.m. And it makes it difficult for you to sleep. Businesses are struggling.
Ghanaians are suffering in general. Listen, last week, for 48 hours, Lantam, I had no lights.
For 48 hours?
For 48 hours.
Constantly?
It was not as though the lights came and went back. For 48 hours,
it was just off.
The lights were off. As for Kaswa, it's as though they are not part of Ghana. I have so many people in Kaswa who will tell you that, listen, Kaswa is like Kaswa has offended the Electricity Company of Ghana. Every now and then,
the lights is off.
Listen, now I think that at this point, Ghanaians are I have drawn my own timetable because every day, if it doesn't go off at 6 p.m., it goes off around 10 p.m. and then comes back around 6:30 a.m. in the morning.
By that time, we are not even in the house.
You are not in the house. And so you don't even know what is happening in the house. That's fine. And sometimes we leave our appliances on because we may not even know. Sometimes we leave our appliances off. And when the lights come and we go back home in the evening, what happens? All the things in our refrigerator goes bad. I am struggling with one of my refrigerators at the moment because at every moment
power supply.
It goes off.
Yeah.
I do not know when my light will go off. I am unable to plan. We are asking you to give us a timetable. You are telling us we are evil people. That's fine. I am evil. But for now, I need a timetable to be able to plan my life. You are telling Ghanaians that the legacy of John Mahama is Dumsor. But what is your legacy, Mr. President? You say the buck stops with you. But what are you doing at this moment? You are telling us that you appreciate our patience. Okay, and so what? Will that bring my light back on? No, Mr. President. At this moment, we Ghanaians are tired. Give us a timetable. Tell us what is the situation on the ground. You are failing to do so because you have politicized this issue so much so that you are unable to admit the truth. At this point, Lantam is speechless. I know. I have never ranted on this show in such a long time.
I'm not even speechless because of your rants. I'm just thinking
thinking
about the whole situation.
Difficult. How do I plan my life?
How many times haven't you seen me rant about this Dumsor situation here on this platform, standing in the same spot? It's like I don't even know what to say again.
Broken record.
You see, and the authorities know. They know what the problem is. You see, and
they have generators in their homes, and we are using our taxpayers' money to fuel the generators for them. And so they do not feel what Ghanaians are feeling. Imagine somebody losing their child because the lights were off. If it were your child, how would you feel, Mr. Minister? If it were your child, how would you feel, Samuel Dubik Mahama? How would you feel if you lose a child because of the erratic power supply? Do you know how many women are suffering in the hospitals because they do not know the fate of their children? They don't know the fate of themselves. Do you know how many people are in their homes not knowing how their food is gonna come about? But the small food they save or store in their fridges are going bad because every now and then our lights are going off. See, Ghanaians are experiencing harsh economic challenges. And the least we expect is our least. The things that we pay for should be on for us. Ghanaians are suffering. Cost of everything is on the ascendancy. Ghanaians cannot even buy gobe. Ghanaians cannot even buy kenke. Now, kenke sellers say they are selling epic. Mekuna ye didn't know. And you, Mr. President, is telling us that we should have patience. Patience for what? Why are you failing to admit that I have failed? You've been politicizing this issue, that this is somebody's legacy. What is your legacy, Mr. President? What is your legacy?
You know, it's interesting that you talk about patience, because the president told us when he became president and he appointed 110 ministers that he's a man in a hurry. Mm-hmm. You remember?
Yeah.
The president told us that he's a man in a hurry. In a hurry to make sure that he makes the country better. In a hurry to get the country back on track from the mess that the erstwhile John Mahama administration put us in. 8 years down the line, Mr. President, you told us that you were in a hurry. And now you are thanking us for our patience. It's very interesting when you think about it and you look at the irony. So we are also in a hurry for the Dumsor situation to end, you see. And one of the things that made me, you know, a bit speechless is that when I was thinking about a friend of mine whom I was with during this week, one of the nights, and he wasn't feeling well, right? And the lights went off. And fortunately, I was with him when the lights went off. And I could see how he was struggling, you know, because of the heat that was in the room, even though the windows were opened. And you could clearly see the struggle that he had to go throughout the entire night, you know, and it was sad. I mean, at a point I got so scared, I thought something was going to happen to him. And so I wanted to take him to the nearest hospital, but he insisted that, you know, he doesn't want to go and that he'll be fine, you know, and we constantly had to have him take a cold shower like 4 or 5 times throughout the entire night just to keep his temperature down, right? So the Dumsor situation is terrible. I was also thinking about what happened at the Tema General Hospital, where the hospital was trying to, you know, deny and cover up and all of that. But fact is, when the lights went off, a baby struggled and the baby died.
Absolutely.
A baby struggled and the baby died. You can talk about the fact that the hospital is supposed to have a standby generator, you know, for all of these things. Yeah, that's on the part of the management of the hospital for not doing all of that. But in any case, if the lights had not gone off in the first place, that problem would not have reared its head. You understand? So someone died because of that. I'm thinking about the businesses that are struggling, okay? And I'm thinking about people who are doing businesses like corn milling,
cold store,
people who are doing businesses like cold stores, people who are mechanics, right? Who are doing businesses like, you know, welding and all of that, where they depend on electricity in order to do their businesses, and they cannot plan, right? Because they don't know when the light is going to go off. So on the day that the lights go off, especially during the day, and people, for example, come to their premises to come and grind their corn, or come to their premises to come and do their hair, you know, because when you wash your hair, you'd have to go into a dryer that requires electricity.
Absolutely.
Even
barbershops.
They are losing business. So it means if the lights goes off around 6 a.m. and it's off all the way through till around 6 p.m., and they hadn't planned for it, and perhaps some of them didn't have money, but they were hoping that when I get into my shop today, people will come and print, people will come and shave their hair, people will come and, you know, do their hair, people will come and grind their corn and all of that. Then I'll be able to get some money then I'll be able to use it to pay this bill, or maybe take care of my child, or take care of some other thing. And then they go into work and there is no electricity. They don't have money to even procure a standby generator, to even buy fuel into the generator, let alone think about buying fuel into the generator. Those who have generators sometimes will not even have money to buy fuel into the generator, and so they are there.
How many people can afford a generator in this present day?
See, so that is the situation, and it's not like we've not seen this before. We have seen this before during the erstwhile John Mahama administration, and we saw what Dumsor did to Ghanaians. And so if this time around you campaigned on the back of dealing with the Dumsor problem, and I remember very well, because some of them who are in government now even say that the time that they came into office, they came and dealt with the Dumsor situation, even though we know that by and large, by the time, we got to 2016, the Dumsor situation had relatively stabilized because we had all the external generation capacity coming in and all of that. So relatively, we had stable power supply until, we changed over, we handed over government to the NPP administration. And even after that, when we handed over power to the NPP administration, I remember very well that the then energy minister, GHOne, came in a very famous, I think it was press conference, said, when we got into office, and these are GHOne's words, he said, when we got into office, we noticed that the Dumsor problem is not a generation capacity problem, but a money problem. That's what GHOne told us, that it is a money problem. And what was the money problem? The money problem was getting us enough money to buy gas and to buy crude to power our plants. And most of our plants heavily rely on, gas anyway. It's just about 10 or 20% of the other plants, which rely mainly on crude. But most of the power plants that we have, especially the thermal ones, are by. They can rely on crude, they can rely on gas, but gas is preferred because gas is cheaper. That's what GHOne told us, that it's a money problem. And they've been able to deal with that issue. So why is it rearing up its head again at this particular point in time, right? There's obviously a shortfall in generation, right? And because they knew that there was no generation, it's not a generation problem, when they came, they've not really added any amount of megawatts, to the external grid. Let's say that we have all the generation capacity, because they talk about excess capacity and all of that. But they said it was a money problem. So if you've dealt with the money problem situation, why are we having a money problem again now when it comes to purchasing gas? Why? Why haven't we put in place the necessary measures to ensure that we have enough money to buy the gas, to buy the fuel that we need, to power these plants, so that we can keep our lights on? So what happened along the line? And that is what Ghanaians do not want. Because if you campaign heavily on the back of something, right, and then you come into office and that same thing is happening and you're unable to deal with it, then what do you want us Ghanaians to think? And the most annoying thing about all of this is the unwillingness to admit that it is Dumsor, because of the politics attached to it.
Thank you.
So there is obviously a huge problem within our energy space, whatever the problem is, you see. And the dancing around the issue and not being truthful to Ghanaians is what is hurting me.
PURC is saying something different. That, listen, we have conducted our research. Our findings show that out of the 715 transformers you have, 89 were loaded to full capacity. So what happened to the remaining 600s? What happened?
But that's what ECG told us, that the reason why we are experiencing Dumsor is because transformers are loaded.
With excess, they have excess load.
Then later on, we are hearing that the cash waterfall mechanism, which was put in place to ensure that there's a stream of money coming in and going out, so that we are buying power, we are settling whatever debts we need to settle, and we're told that there's a problem with it. Then ECG starts to tell us that GridCo is not telling them when they are going to give them power. So because of that, it is difficult for them to give us a timetable. Then we are hearing another thing. So what is the problem? You see, the back and forth and the dilly-dallying, just because we don't want to admit that it's Dumsor.
Exporting power to neighboring countries.
Yes.
We have put that on hold. Still, even with that, the problem has worsened.
And the energy minister is asked about this, and he tells us that we should do our own timetable, and that why do we wish evil for the country?
I have done my own timetable. And then
after that, the energy ministry issues the statement
I'm an evil person,
trying to
so
do
I've done
damage
my own
control.
timetable.
See, bottom line of all of this is that there is Dumsor. Whether you want to call it Dum CSA, Dum Kakra, Nasone Kakra, or whatever, the fact is, if the lights goes on and it goes off and it goes on and it is erratic, it is Dumsor. Ghanaians know that even you in government, you don't want to admit that there is Dumsor. You want to call it whatever name. Ghanaians who are feeling it know that there is Dumsor. And all we want is for the situation to be dealt with and to be fixed. Simplicity. Let's stop these shenanigans and politics around it. There is a problem in the energy sector. There is debt. There is, lack of maintenance of equipment. There is whatever. There is a problem in the energy sector. Deal with it. Deal with it and let us have stable power supply. That's all Ghanaians are asking for. Simplicity.